Good morning. My name is Charlie Hoke. My pronouns are he, him, and I have the joy of serving on your Board of Trustees, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all here today. Loyal band that we are. If you are here for the first time, thank you for joining. We look forward to getting to know you. We invite everyone in the sanctuary today to join our in-person community time immediately following the service. Each week, we remind ourselves of our congregation's core values: connection, transformation, justice, acceptance. As part of living our values, we acknowledge that we live and work in the ancestral and sacred lands of indigenous people, including the Ojibwa, Odawa, Potawatomi, Miami, Kickapoo, Peoria, Ho-Chunk, Meskwaki, and Sauk nations. These lands were the traditional territory of Native nations prior to their forced removal. These lands continue to carry the stories of these living nations and their ongoing struggles for survival and identity. Living our values calls us to include supporting the social justice work of contemporary indigenous communities living now in this area. Our Democracy in Action Vote Love team invites everyone to write at least one postcard after each service today in Unity House. The postcards will go to young women, encouraging them to vote so their voices are heard on November 5th. Our team is partnering with Moms Rising on this project. Now, Reverend Roger has an update on our annual fund drive.
Good morning, I am Reverend Roger, and pronouns are he, him. As I said last Sunday, October is the month where all Unity Temple members and friends are invited to reflect on the place of Unity Temple in their lives and the lives of the community beyond these walls, and also invited to reflect on what amount of money in 2025 feels like it is the right amount for you, each one of you, to give in support of Unity Temple's mission. That sweet spot for me is finding what's meaningful for you, what brings you joy, what works for you. And then the second part of that two-part thing I talked about last week after reflection is act, and that's filling out a paper pledge form or our online pledge form. Once again, in Unity House, will be both options if you want to take care of that today. Our goal is to get all these in October so that the board can put together a budget that's based on real numbers and less guesswork. And this is really important for volunteers who would have to follow up with people to not have to do that. So appreciate your help on that. Each week, we are going to show you progress toward being able to fund the mission in this next year with this really cool graph. As we move toward the goal, more blue will be filled in. The bird will go higher. That's what we're going to look for through this month. And this is progress through Thursday, so that's day 5 of the pledge drive. So we're off to a great start. My deep gratitude for all. Unity Temple does change lives, and that's the beautiful reason behind generously supporting Unity Temple and making a pledge that feels right for you. Unity Temple matters, and we'll hear now from Sybil Madison on how Unity Temple matters to her.
Good morning. My name is Sybil Madison, and I use she, her pronouns. I have been a member at Unity Temple for a little over 10 years. During the pandemic, I was an armchair member, watching church online from my comfy living room chair. Over time, it became from my kitchen with a cup of coffee. Sometimes it was in my bed in my pajamas, and occasionally from the aisles of Costco through my headphones. I stayed in that mode after the church doors reopened. It just was easier and more convenient for me. Plus, the church was going through a lot and things felt in flux. About a year and a half ago, I started joining the Mindful Reflection community on Tuesday evenings from my comfy chair. At the time, I was really struggling with immense worry about my oldest child who was away at college. Tuesday evenings became my oasis of calm. My online Tuesday night comrades, and I love all of you, along with the Dharma talks, provided me with so much wisdom and hope. It was and is absolutely amazing when we share darshan each week, gazing at one another through our cameras. You can feel the energy of unconditional love and acceptance coming through the screen. Over time, my anxiety subsided, enabling me to be a much more present parent, and consistent practice in this community brought me equanimity and inspired me to come into church in person. So I started showing up again, and as I was finding my footing on the floors of Unity Temple, as a community, we were regaining our footing, as well with the transition from an interim to a developmental minister. For me, the stability and change that accompany having a longer horizon produced a sense of promise and possibility. One of those changes, involving more lay people in service, led me to sign up to be a worship associate. This experience has nurtured my spiritual growth and strengthened my connection to this church community. I value Unity Temple more today than ever. It's been a virtuous cycle of engaging more, growing more, and appreciating more. And I'm increasing my pledge significantly this year with excitement and turning my pledge in this week. I hope that when you reflect on what you value about Unity Temple, you too are inspired to be very generous with your pledge this year. Finally, I wish for all of us to keep the virtuous cycles going by engaging even more in the opportunities here that call our hearts.
Thank you, Sybil. We are so glad that you are here with us today. Whether you are here in person or here virtually, we hope you find the service inspiring and meaningful. I invite those of you here in person to take a moment to greet one another. Don't be shy, even if they're long distances here.
Greetings,
Sound guy.
Greetings. Greetings.
My hands are
Charlie?
always the best.
I'm Reverend Emily Gage. My pronouns are she and her. Our chalice lighter today is Anne. Anne's favorite color is blue. And you may have seen Anne working incredibly hard and with great love to preserve democracy for the future. Please join with me in the words of our chalice lighting. We are Unitarian Universalists. This is the church of the open minds, the loving hearts, and the helping hands. We take care of the planet Earth and each other.
Good morning. My name is Cecile, and I use she, her pronouns. In the early 90s, my husband and I lived in Washington, D.C. while I was in law school. We both worked for the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, and having helped defeat Bush Sr., we proudly displayed our Clinton Gore sticker on our little Toyota. The car was keyed once in our apartment parking lot, and we were convinced that it was because of the sticker. After law school, we moved back to Cleveland, our hometown, and a racially and politically divided city. Where we lived at the time was not the progressive side. Once we were walking to our car where an agitated man and his young son were waiting. As we got closer, the homophobic hate that spewed from their mouths was shocking. They were clearly set off by the political sticker. Apparently, they didn't like Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Thankfully, it didn't escalate, but the incident shook me. A couple of years later, on Election Day, I was a frazzled working mom, rushing to get to my polling place. I was anxious when I pulled into the library parking lot. I was cutting it close, but I had about 10 more minutes when a middle-aged white man approached and I cracked my window. He said I was too late. The polls had closed. Well, that doesn't make any sense, I said. It's not 7 yet. It's closed, he said firmly. Go home. I glanced at the door and didn't see anyone going in or out. I was conflicted and felt a tinge of fear. What would he do if I tried to vote anyway? Why did he approach my car? Was it because I was a woman or Asian? Was it the Clinton Gore sticker? I'll never know. I turned the car around and went home. Thank you to everyone, especially you, Anne, who has helped with getting out the vote this year. Your postcard just might give someone the courage to walk into their polling place. Whoever you are, wherever you are in your life's journey, you are welcome here. Please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing One More Step, number 168 in the Gray Hymnal.
Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God.
Good morning. My name is Diana Coates, and my pronouns are she and her, and I'm a part of our spiritual care team. Love is the doctrine of this congregation, and sharing our joys and sorrows each Sunday, we embody love. We embody this love in our congregation. Those attending in person may share your joys and sorrows just outside the doors. There's a binder. If you would like to talk to somebody on our team, please feel welcome. If you're holding something on your heart, we are here to listen and sit with you in both times of joy and sorrow. You can also email your joys and sorrows to us at spiritualcare@unitytemple.org. Here are the joys and sorrows that were shared this week. Music director, our wonderful music director, Marty Swisher, is excited to announce the birth of her third grandchild, Adam Andrew Swisher. 3 boys. I don't know if you'll be excited in another couple of years. Jordan and Bobby are over the moon with love for their new brother. Our dear friend, Roz, member of the choir, is in the hospital for the 7th time. Texts and emails are appreciated. No phone calls or visits at this time. And Roz loves trees, so if you see a beautiful tree, send her that beauty in your mind. And Sybil Madison, my sister-in-law's father, James Campbell, is transitioning into hospice care. Please hold us in your hearts, especially Joan Madison. So we will hold your family in our hearts, we will hold Roz, and we will also hold that third grandson in our hearts. We know that some are holding joys and sorrows in silence. We invite anyone who has a joy or a sorrow to come forward and drop a stone into the bowl of water. We have 4 stations all around the room, and we invite you to practice spiritual practice of silence during the shared time. Let's begin.
As we begin our time of prayer and meditation, we especially hold in our hearts all the people in Florida struggling in the aftermath of another devastating hurricane. This includes many loved ones of members of this beloved community. These words of prayer and meditation come from the Reverend Darcy Lane. Listen. If we listen, we may hear the joys of the people around us. We may hear the concerns of our community. We may hear sorrow in a voice that breaks. We may hear a laugh hiding behind words. If we listen, we may hear the sounds of life around us. We may hear the creatures with whom we share this earth. We may hear the engine hum of airplanes or cars, of strangers and neighbors traveling. We may hear the whistle of wind, the tumbling of leaves. If we listen, we may hear the sounds of the company of people. We may hear the coughing and sniffling of colds and allergies. We may hear the breathing of those nearby. We may hear the sigh of a body letting go. We may hear the wiggle of the restlessness of sitting, the shuffle of paper and purse and hymnal. If we listen, we may hear ourselves. We may hear our own joy and laughter and sorrow. We may hear our own humming and tumbling. We may hear our own breathing. We may hear our own longing. Listen. Amen. Blessed be. If you are someone who likes to come close when you're listening to a story, I invite you to come and sit down on the floor near me. I have a book today called The Rabbit Listened. It's by Corey Dorfeld. I see some friends coming. One day, Taylor decided to build something new, something special, something amazing. Taylor was so proud. But then, out of nowhere, things came crashing down. The chicken was the first to notice. Cluck, cluck, what a shame. I'm so sorry this happened. Let's talk about it. Cluck, cluck. But Taylor didn't feel like talking, so the chicken left. Next came the bear. Roar, roar, how horrible. I bet you feel so angry. Let's shout about it. Grr, roar, grr. But Taylor didn't feel like shouting, so the bear left. The elephant knew just what to do. Trumpa-da, I can fix this. We just need to remember exactly the way things were. But Taylor didn't feel like remembering, so the elephant also left. One by one they came. The hyena, hee hee, let's laugh about it. The ostrich, gulp, let's hide and pretend nothing happened. The kangaroo, tisk tisk, what a mess, let's throw it all away. And the snake, shh, let's go knock down someone else's. But Taylor didn't feel like doing anything with anybody, so eventually they all left and Taylor was alone. In the quiet, Taylor didn't even notice the rabbit, but it moved closer and closer until Taylor could feel its warm body. Together they sat in silence until Taylor said, "Please stay with me." The rabbit listened. The rabbit listened as Taylor talked. The rabbit listened as Taylor shouted. The rabbit listened as Taylor remembered and laughed. The rabbit listened to Taylor's plans to hide, to throw everything away, to ruin things for someone else. Through it all, the rabbit never left. And then, when the time was right, the rabbit listened to Taylor's plan to build again. "I can't wait," Taylor said. "It's going to be amazing." The end. Thanks for listening. All right, we're going to send you to Unity House.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Jan Johnston. My pronouns are she, her. Each week, Unity Temple shares the collection evenly. One half supports the programs and mission of our congregation. This week, the other half goes to Moms Rising. Our social justice, democracy in action, Vote Love team is partnering with Moms Rising to get out the vote for women who are registered but do not always vote. Moms Rising advocates for maternal care, early childhood intervention, childhood education, health care, and gun violence prevention. Moms Rising is a multicultural organization of more than 1 million members and over 100 aligned organizations, working to increase family economic security, to advance equal pay, paid family and medical leave, paid sick days, and other workplace justice policies from the local to federal levels. They educate and mobilize parents and other caregivers across the nation. Moms Rising policy work parallels all the issues covered by our Unity Temple Faith in Action teams. And yes, let's hope that all moms, dads, sisters, and brothers will rise to the voting booth early or on that special day to exercise their voice. Instructions for giving are in the order of service and on the screen. May we be transformed by our giving, and may the world be transformed by our gifts.
Our reading is a poem called Because by Rosemary Watola Trommer. So I can't save the world, can't save even myself, can't wrap my arms around every frightened child, can't foster peace among nations, can't bring love to all who feel unlovable. So I practice opening my heart right here in this room and being gentle with my insufficiency. I practice walking down the street heart first. And if it is insufficient to share love, I will practice loving anyway. I want to converse about truth, about trust. I want to invite compassion into every interaction. One willing heart can't stop a war. One willing heart can't feed all the hungry. And sometimes, daunted by a task too big, I tell myself, what's the use of trying? But today, the invitation is clear, to be ridiculously courageous in love. To open the heart like a lilac in May, knowing freeze is possible and opening anyway. To take love seriously, to give love wildly, to race up to the world as if I were a puppy, adored and unjaded, stumbling on my own exuberance. To feel the shock of indifference, of anger, of cruelty, of fear, and stay open. To love as if it matters, as if the world depends on it. Chief Inspector Armand Gamache of the Louise Penny fictional mystery series believes that there are 4 statements that lead to wisdom. I don't know, I need help, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I don't know, I need help, I'm sorry, I was wrong. These are not the statements that you might expect to hear from a chief inspector of homicide of the Sûreté, the provincial police force in Quebec, but perhaps that is the point. Gamache is not who you might expect him to be. I've spent a lot of time with him, having made my way through all 18 of the novels about him almost twice in preparation for the 19th in a few weeks, and I know him well. He is kind, loving, focused on his family, extremely thoughtful, full of integrity, and wise. Wise because it turns out he has an openness to him, an ability to keep turning over what he does know to make sure it still rings true or doesn't. He maintains always a willingness to be changed. Wise indeed. It does happen, in fact, as some of the homicide cases unfold, that you see how important it is to listen and keep an open mind. If you arrive at a crime scene, for example, and quickly make up your mind about what has happened and how, you can easily piece together the evidence to fit your story, which can sometimes lead to a totally wrong conclusion and conviction. This phenomenon, of course, happens everywhere and all the time, and perhaps could feel familiar to each one of us. Tomorrow is the federal holiday called Columbus Day in the United States. As far as I can tell, it is still officially called that. You no doubt have been exposed to the story of this explorer who was trying to reach Asia by sailing west from Europe. His voyage was part of a larger movement of various European rulers trying to increase their fame and fortune in new, or at least new to them, lands. The world was much bigger than Columbus had believed, and so he landed not in Asia, but in the Bahamas on October 12, 1492. He had a definite lens in how he viewed what he found. The History.com website reports that Columbus wrote this in his journal about the people he encountered. They brought us parrots and balls of cotton and spears and many other things which they exchanged for the glass beads and hawk's bells. They willingly traded everything they owned. They were well built, with good bodies and handsome features. They do not bear arms and do not know them. For I showed them a sword, they took it by the edge and cut themselves out of ignorance. They have no iron, they would make fine servants. With 50 men, we could subjugate them all and make them do whatever we want. And so a long history of exploitation, colonization, and enslavement began in our part of the world. Our mainstream culture has long referred to this event innocuously and wrongly as Columbus discovering America. It was a personal discovery, maybe, but the land and its people were already here. I can't help but wonder how differently things possibly could have played out if Columbus had landed in America with more of an openness or curiosity without imposing his own agenda and framework with what he encountered. Instead, Columbus Day and his discovery was first celebrated in 1792 and made a federal holiday in 1937. Unitarian Universalism has always had some version of a willingness to be changed in its central tenets. We have talked about an ongoing quest for truth and meaning and encouragement to spiritual growth and so on. The language that was adopted by our religious movement this summer articulates this core value as transformation. It's defined like this: Transformation, we adapt to the changing world. We covenant to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. Openness to change is fundamental to Unitarian and Universalist heritages, never complete and never perfect. It occurs to me that openness to change and transformation and growth is why we do so much of what we do. Our justice teams provide educational opportunities to help us deepen our understanding about particular issues and thus often strengthen our commitment to work for change. People often start coming to church because they are searching for something they are missing and want something to be different. We engage in theme-based ministry because using those themes help us focus on our ways of being and living with new perspectives. The theme we are exploring in October is deep listening, and it is from this packet of materials that I discovered the quote from Mark Nepo. To listen is to lean in softly with the willingness to be changed by what we hear. One of the suggested resources in the October Soul Matters packet is a podcast called Everything is Alive. The premise of this podcast is that each episode is an interview with an inanimate object. The first episode interviews Louis, a can of cola. He's a store brand cola that has spent a great deal of time hanging out in the fridge. This podcast is so great. It is hilarious and interesting and has made me take on perspectives of things I never really considered before. I'm never going to look at a can of generic cola the same way again. And really, I never thought I would hear a can of cola fast approaching its expiration date say, "It's a gift just to get to be anything." What a delight to feel that I've gotten to see some ordinary objects in a completely new way. Sometimes, as in this case, new ideas and new stories and perspectives are easy to absorb. And sometimes they are more challenging. It's not always easy to change or let go of ideas we've had. Thursday this week was National Coming Out Day, which is a celebration of those who identify as LGBTQ+, sharing and declaring their authentic selves. Stories of those who come out often involve how others react to hearing those stories. Those vary, of course, from immediate and total acceptance to complete rejection and estrangement and everywhere in between. I remember in my own coming out process sharing someone's unexpected reaction with my dad, who said, "Well, they had a different idea about who they thought you were." And sometimes people have a willingness to change those ideas about you, and sometimes they don't. With the encouragement of the Widening the Circle team, formerly the Anti-Oppression and Anti-Racism team here at Unity Temple, many committees and teams are engaging in a reflection process in our regular meetings. In the past few weeks, I've had a number of opportunities to engage with this quote from V. Myers. "Human beings are so much more than what you can see. We are all a complex set of identities, cultures, and experiences. Like an iceberg, most of who we are is below the surface." All of us, whether we mean to or not, judge books by their cover, so to speak, when it comes to people. Sometimes this is necessary and helpful, and sometimes it just gets in the way of seeing a more complex reality or a more authentic one. I was reminded of this last week when we went on a family vacation. Our family is two middle-aged white women with a taller than us black teenage son. We are not the common image when people think of a family. Sometimes you can see confusion or discomfort in the way people interact with us. Always we have our safety in mind when we decide where and how we will travel. When we see other families like ours, we tend to make an extra effort to be kind or to connect. Last night at sunset ended the holiest day of the year in Judaism, Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. It's a culmination of a 10-year New Year's time in which one reflects on the past year, atones for wrongdoing, and asks for forgiveness. It's an opportunity to listen deeply to yourself, to those around you, to your life, and then open up to change and a new year. This is not my own religious heritage, and I have always appreciated the clarity of this need for assessing and forgiving and letting go and starting again. It illustrates a faith in human beings to change, and it is a reminder that we do often need to change to open ourselves up to more learning and growth. We Unitarian Universalists also believe that others are willing to be changed by what they hear. That is the central premise of door knocking and phone banking and texting and writing letters and postcards to either get out the vote or convince people to vote for your particular candidate. I've been happy to have a constructive way to channel my anxiety about the state of the world as the election approaches by writing hundreds of letters and postcards to get out the vote. As I address the cards, I wonder how they will be received. I wonder if the recipients know or feel the hopes and dreams I've sent along with my standard prescribed message. I wonder if it will make a difference to them. I'm never really going to know about the impact of that work. I will only know that for me and for what I want the world to be, it was the right thing to do. I've been changed a little by connecting in this way to voters in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Illinois and Georgia and Minnesota. Having written the words, "Who you vote for is private, but whether you vote is public record," approximately 1 zillion times, I've pondered a lot why this message is important. It's good to remind voters / ourselves that what actually happens in ballot boxes stays with us. Cecile's story is a reminder that threats and intimidation can happen anywhere, including at polling places with real consequences. I know we all know of other stories like that. Totally accidentally, I was searching for something online the other day, and I happened across a list of voters in Northeast Oak Park from a 2020 election. There, for anyone to see, were my neighbors, their names, their streets, and whether or not they voted, a public record. My own name was on the list, and I was relieved to see that I had voted. But I stopped by the relatively few names of people who had not and wondered why. Had they felt disenfranchised? Had something happened on the way to the polls? Would they vote this time? Will one of us help get them there this time? The amazing Vote Love, Democracy in Action teams have been sponsoring opportunities to make a difference over these past months. And today is the last day for writing postcards here. It's time to get them all in the mail, after all. Today you have an opportunity to write a note of encouragement on the already prepared postcards from Moms Rising. Your actions make a difference. As I mentioned earlier, tomorrow is a federal holiday, and I was right to be confused about what it is called. According to the federal government and the state of Illinois, the second Monday in October is called Columbus Day. According to the D97 Oak Park Elementary School District, the kids have off for Indigenous Peoples Day. That's also the reason the Oak Park Public Library is closed tomorrow. As early as 1977, a worldwide Indigenous delegation proposed replacing Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day at the United Nations. Rather than honoring an explorer who brought, as one activist Indigenous leader put it, famine, colonization, and the deaths of millions of people, we should honor the people who had been here for thousands of years already. Some states do officially recognize this day as Indigenous Peoples Day. President Biden issued a statement on Friday declaring Monday Indigenous Peoples Day. But the variety remains and illustrates that the country as a whole is ambivalent, on this issue and our relationship with our difficult and racist history. Not everyone has a willingness to be changed. Not everyone is ready to have our perspective shifted on what the anniversary of October 12th, 1492 should mean. One of the reasons I love Armand Gamache, the Chief Inspector of Homicide in the Louise Penny novels, is his ability to see potential. Time and again, he finds someone who everyone else has written off and gives them new opportunities, mentoring them and helping them grow. Gamache, generally speaking, has a willingness to be changed and a willingness to encourage change where no one else sees the possibility. Louise Penny herself writes, "My books are about terror, that brooding terror curled deep inside, down inside us. But more than that, more than murder, more than all the rancid emotions and actions, my books are about goodness and kindness, about choices, about friendship and belonging and love. Enduring love. If you take only one thing away from any of my books, I'd like it to be this: goodness exists." That sounds about right to me. You don't even have to listen that deeply in those books to hear that. Mark Nepo writes, "To listen is to lean in softly with the willingness to be changed by what we hear." May we remember Armand Gamache's statements that lead to wisdom. I don't know, I need help, I'm sorry, I was wrong. May we lean in softly with a willingness to be changed by what we hear. May we know and believe in the possibility of change both within us and around us. And so may it always be. I invite you to rise in body and spirit. We are going to sing hymn number 1040. That's in the Teal hymn book, but the words will be on the screen. Somebody's calling my name. Hush, hush. Somebody's calling my name. Hush, hush. Somebody's calling my name. Oh my Lord, what shall I do? Sounds like freedom. Somebody's calling my name. Sounds like freedom. Somebody's calling my name. Sounds like freedom. Somebody's calling my name. Oh my Lord, what shall I do? Sounds like justice. Somebody's calling my name. Sounds like justice. Somebody's calling my name. Sounds like justice. Somebody's calling my name. Oh my Lord, what shall I do? So glad that trouble don't last always. trouble don't last always. Oh my Lord, what shall I do? Our closing words are from Kimberly Quinn Johnson. Hush, somebody's calling your name. Can you hear it? Calling you to a past not quite forgotten, calling us to a future not fully imagined. Hush, hush, somebody's calling our name. What shall we do? Please join with me in the words of our chalice extinguishing. Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again.